Call this meeting of the Harriman City Council on March 20th, 2018. Order. Before we get started, we'll have a prayer by Councilman Wright, followed by the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Councilman Wright?
Yeah, would you join me? Heavenly Father, we thank you for today and for another opportunity to take part in this meeting of the City Council. We ask that you would help us to recognize that each person is unique and important, and that our attitudes and actions affect outcomes. And Lord, may we come to understand that positive attitudes make things go much smoother. So bless us in this meeting today. May your Spirit lead us during this time. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris Hager, Buddy Holly, Tim Johnson,
Here.
Kenyon Me, Sam Russell,
Here.
Lonnie Wright.
Here. Clerk Warren. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the March 6, 2018 meeting.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Wright, second.
I second.
Second by Councilman Johnson. Councilman Wright.
No, sir.
Councilman Johnson.
No, sir.
Floor is open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly,
Yes.
Tim Johnson,
Yes.
Sam Russell,
Yes.
Lonnie Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries. Need a motion to pay the bills?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Russell, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Holly. Councilman Russell?
No, sir.
Councilman Holly?
No, sir.
Floor is open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly,
Yes.
Tim Johnson,
Yes.
Sam Russell,
Yes.
Lonnie Wright.
Yes.
Motion carries. At this time, we'll hear from delegation. If you'd like to address council, please stand, state your name, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Joseph Jones. I'm here from Troop 103 up in Harriman over there, and I'd like to propose those plans up there. I've been wanting to build it's a parabola for the park up in Harriman. It's the Killiford Park, and we're planning on making an entrance for that for my Eagle Scout project. And if you guys want to look over that, we plan on putting it's like a kind of an archway, if you will, for it, and we're planning on adding benches to both sides of it. It's to benefit the community, and it's kind of a gift to Harriman. Really, I came here tonight to request some funding for it. We came up with some plans for it from Lowe's, and we went to different places. We plan on getting the wood from Christmas Lumber Company, but I think the price of it's going to be $1,700 for the total. And funding with that would be helpful towards us. We plan on getting some funding from friends and family of that nature, but it'd be a bigger help if we got some from you guys.
Floor is open for council for any discussion.
Where will this be located in the park?
It would be the front entrance. It's kind of the middle of it where it has the entrance to the sidewalk that leads down to the pavilion down there. It'd be that sidewalk at the front of it.
Joseph, who's going to supply the labor?
It's me and my troop. So we'd be building the whole thing. We were planning on prefabricating all the wood, and then once we get it together, we can meet a day and then build most of it. It'll kind of be spanned out through time, but I'm taking about 2 days on it.
Here's your details on who's going to help you.
Oh yeah, the plans you see right here were drawn up by Adam Price, and he's the interim coach for Harriman, and we're getting some help from Chris Sisler too for overseeing the whole project. So we've been working on a proposal to the Eagle Board up in the district for them too.
Make a motion that we give them $1,700. City's part of the construction of the item.
I'll second it.
A
motion and a second. Motion by Councilman Holly, second by Councilman Johnson. Councilman Holly.
I think it'll be nice. Nice place.
Councilman Johnson.
I think it'll be a real nice addition. What is it exactly that you're gonna be putting in?
It's called a pergola or a pergola. Yeah, it's kind of an archway entrance. It has the park name on it. Yeah, it's got seating and stuff too. So
Okay, and it'll be like to the side of it, or?
it's towards the main entrance. Like there's a concrete walkway that leads down to the pavilion in the middle of the park, and we plan on doing it kind of like the archway over the concrete.
Okay,
Yeah, on the entrance.
I think that'll be nice. That's all I've got.
Floor is open for discussion.
I think it's a good project. I guess I want to know, is there any problem with us funding this?
I think as long as it's on a city park, it meets the codes, and we're going to assume ownership of it. Once it's complete, then I don't think there would be any legal problems with it being funded, if that's what you're referencing.
No, I would agree with the city manager. It's not a private monument. It would be owned by the city. As far as the funds available, you'd have to ask Dr. Curley.
Can we swing it, Charlie?
How many dollars total were you asking for?
1,700.
Yeah, I think you could do that.
That's all right, I think.
The only question I would have is you're getting the material at Christmas Lumber Company. Would it be easier for us as a city to donate the material and the billing come through the city, or would it be easier just to write them a check for $1,700?
I think if you wanted, as a part of ongoing park upgrade and maintenance activities for parks, you could actually buy the material and let them donate their labor to put it together.
That work does it?
Yes, yes it would.
That would be possibly in lieu of actual funds, actual monies.
Right.
Yeah,
Do you have a materials list?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
What if it's out with the council, if he can, since it's going in a park, I would think that our Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Hickman, would be someone that he would work with and maybe get the list to. If that's, sounds right with you, then we would take care of it from there. Does that sound okay?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Tim Johnson?
Yes.
Sam Russell?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes. Motion carries. Do you have anything else?
He did want to request that after completion, that if council and you, the mayor, would come up for a formal dedication and maybe get some pictures. Everything in scouting, I'm committee chair, has to be documented. And tonight, after the meeting's over, if y'all could hang around just for a second, let me get a couple of pictures. Those have to be sent in as well. Everything has to go before council, which is in Texas now, before you get approval. So you have to do it step by step. We appreciate y'all tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And Joe, just on a note, we appreciate you kind of watching after the park. You live across the street from it, and
Yes.
I know every time something's going on over where you don't hesitate to let authorities know that, you know, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
You overlook the park.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council? Ma'am, thank you.
Yes, thank you. My name is Hope Odell, and I'm the outreach pastor at Courts of Praise Church, just right down the street. I've been working super hard the last year or two to really get a good name for us out in the community. We do the warming center, and we're getting ready to do the helicopter drop. I hope everyone appreciates the helicopter drop anyway. The kids seem to love it. But I'm here tonight because we're going to do our egg drop on Saturday the 31st. And then what I'm asking is if it would be okay if we could put up a tent in the parking lot of the old Roan Medical Center And we'll have a worship service on Saturday evening, and then we would like to have our Easter morning service under the tent as well. That way it's more of like a safe place for people to come. A lot of people are a little skittish about going to church, so I just thought maybe if we had a big tent, open air kind of thing, people might enjoy coming out to that. So I wanted to come tonight and address the council to see if that would be a possibility.
Floor is open for council to ask any questions. Before we start asking, the first question I asked today when I seen this was, my biggest concern is I feel like it was a great idea, was that to make sure that whatever tent you get doesn't stake into our pavement.
Okay.
They'll put tents up and they stake those things into the pavement, and we stopped them from doing that. So that was my only concern, was from my standpoint, was to make sure they didn't stake into our pavement
Okay.
over there, drive those big stakes down into
Okay.
it.
I'm calling the city attorneys. You see anything wrong with?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We've allowed CASA to set up a tent before, the trunk or treat kind of thing. If we needed to come up with an agreement just for the liability purposes for those couple days, we can do that. But as far as like the church taking on liability if anything happens, or, you know, maintaining it.
I understand that. You see any problem with the city though, allowing them?
Because it's a religious organization? I don't think so.
Okay.
Sandbags, all really hold it down.
Sandbags, okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Yep.
And of course, we'd be willing to sign any liability that we would need or whatever too.
Yeah, they do pretty good.
And what is the sound ordinance rules? I don't know, like, you know, how does that work? Does that matter if we're in service until 8 o'clock or something, or 9 o'clock on Saturday night, or how does that work?
As long as it don't go, I think that once you pass 10 o'clock, it starts getting into a noise
Okay,
ordinance.
that won't be a problem.
I
And
thought
starting on
Sunday-
Sunday morning?
Codes enforcement's here.
I don't know the exact numbers, but yes, there is a quiet time.
Yeah.
So
But it's like after
like
10
future
o'clock.
information, I can give you more details on
Okay,
that.
I'll follow up with that. If it's approved, of course, I'll follow up to be sure that we stay in the guidelines.
Any other questions from council? Any movement from council? How about, instead of we approving this, at the end, I'm gonna have to waive the agenda rule for some that you have. Is it okay to put this on the agenda, waive the rule and put it on the agenda for y'all to vote to approve this?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll put it on there. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
David, I know the city recently annexed part of Highland Drive, and I was wondering if, with that annexation, they had any plans of maybe a possible red light or moving the city limits sign just at a minimum up the road, or paving that road anytime soon. I know Alan Williams is planning on building a road there. I didn't know, he's probably spoken to you all about it. I was just curious myself, because I live on the house that was recently annexed into the city there. And just curious if that was on the docket. I know there's a step ladder as far as what's getting paved and what's not. I just wanted to know if that was going to get put on the possibility, because it's been washed out pretty bad over the years, if you've driven up that road.
I've talked to Alan, I've also talked to the Roane County Highway Superintendent, Mr. Ferguson. He's agreed to pave over to match ours when we get ready to pave it. I just don't know when ours is on the list, but now he's agreed to pave his part, which his part still comes almost to the same, because I think we went up the side. Did we take the road when we annexed up through there?
I think we did up to his property line.
Okay. Because I know it did came, you can see where it cuts off. But as far as it being on the list, I haven't seen it on the list.
We rated them all, as far as where it fell with regard to all of them. I don't know, I'd have to go get the list and look at it. It wasn't in phase one, which we're about to complete. I'm not sure where it would fall beyond that.
I'll try to get you an answer as to where it's at on rating and what it's looking at.
It's not dangerous or anything. I know when a road like that probably starts getting a little worse and then it catches all that rainfall coming down, it gets worse quick. If you get ahead of it, it's probably easier work before it gets bad. I just thought I'd bring it up. Alan and I have spoken about it a few times.
If we think some of his construction is going to be pretty soon, we would want to wait until after the equipment comes in anyway.
So that makes sense. Okay.
And I went up there yesterday and drove that property to look exactly what was going to be coming in up there as far as housing. And the ditch line out there, right down from your house, I know that the utilities come up there and they dug the ditch line out to put in the extending the sewer and stuff like that, and it looks, it's washed out bad.
Yeah.
So
They
I
just put a
do,
cold patch, it looked like, on that spot.
and I have it down to get with the utilities and see about fixing that ditch line that was tore up through there, because I notice it's washing the road part out now, pulling it with that ditch. So I will touch base with them tomorrow, or I'll get with Kevin and we can send them an email to find out what's plans is for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council? Yes, sir.
Alexander, I just want to commend the fire department. There was a fire right down below my house this weekend, and they was out there and worked diligently late until the mornings. And the police was out there doing their job good too.
Thank you. Thank you, fire department. I went out and looked at that house and it's still standing, but that's about it. Anyone else? All right, if not, we'll go into council comments. Councilman Russell.
No, sir.
Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, just one thing, up at the park, up on Crescent Street, that Kilford Park right there, that one little slide that sets over to the right by itself. Did you and Kevin get those pictures I sent you all about a week ago?
Have you went on the slide?
No. Of the tree with the hole in the bottom. The whole bottom's hollow. I mean, I'll bet you it's not maybe that thick all the way around. The whole bottom just, there's nothing in the middle. It's a huge tree. But we need to get somebody to look at that. It might be okay, but I'm afraid if the wind really bends it, it's gonna break. It's got a lot of wood on it. But that's the only thing I got.
Okay. You met with them when they met down there about the cameras?
Yep.
Everything looks good?
Yeah, it's gonna really be nice when he's drawn up maybe one or two proposals for us, and when they get back with us, Kenny asked me if I'd go down there with him, because I know where we looked and everything, and I told him I'd volunteer to go down there and help them, and just kind of not really direct it, but be there if they got any questions and stuff. But it's gonna be real nice.
And I'd like to say on that point is that I've been getting some texts, and I've been pushing them to the police department's website and Facebook to notify them. But people are starting to take pictures now of cars that's down there that is parked over and tearing the grounds up and things like that. So people are starting to take an interest in the park, and they're starting to look out for it. And I hope that they're getting with you all. I sent some pictures yesterday to Alan, some pictures that were sent to me. So it's tag numbers and things like that. So people, hopefully they'll start seeing that people's watching what's going on in our parks and start taking care of it.
Well, they're going to have two cameras that's going to be those tilt pan zoom. And trust me, I watched a video of one of them. You can have one on the bridge down here, and it will zoom in all the way to where the front entrance is, and you can read a license plate. It's unreal. I mean, that company's, they're legit. They know what they're doing.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wright.
Yeah, one thing I meant to call Kevin about it, I was down at the Tim's boat dock the other day, and that's a nice boat dock. But I think whoever's looking at that project, we need to consider putting up some signs.
Yeah.
And you probably know what we need, so.
Yeah.
I did find one suspicious person on that dock. I'll tell you after the meeting.
Have you seen it at night when it's lit up?
No,
Oh, you gotta go down there at night.
but it is,
They've got lights all the way underneath the railings, all the way down to the dock. The whole thing lights up at night.
I got your suspicion, Lonnie.
Guilty always speaks, right?
that's it.
Councilman Holly?
No.
I've only got one thing. I talked to, went down by the library today to check. We had a bunch of rain yesterday, and you may have this in your report, but I went down and talked to her. No water in the library. The job has been completed. They want to wait till it rained real heavy to go back down and sow the grass and stuff, but hopefully the library is fixed and we won't have any more water issues.
Good.
New business, discuss and possibly approve resolution R0318-3, authorizing the city to submit the LPRF grant application. Mr. Helms.
This is for the Parks and Recreation grant application that we held a community meeting on just prior to council tonight. You should have a one-page outline there that we provided for you this evening. Provides two options for potential grant project versus local projects. This is taking into consideration the proposed upgrades at Riverfront Park that we went through, as well as the upgrades at the community center that are needed, and dividing those up and just determining which one we want to place within the grant applications and which ones that we may want to pursue locally. And there's pros and cons for both. We had initially planned on doing the Riverfront Park under the grant application, primarily due to timing and trying to get the splash pad to open sooner. But recent information would indicate that the timing would be pretty similar for either project. So therefore, we've developed the second option, which would put the splash pad under the grant, as well as the several of the other upgrades at the community center. And then we would look at paving the walking trail and doing some other things at the park in-house. So those are the two options that we've got for you to consider tonight.
And let me say a little bit on the option one, which has the splash pad in as in the grant. We had discussed numerous times here with council about skipping the grant and us paying for it and putting the splash pad in, so we had it in this summer for the kids to be able to use. The problem that has arose is both contractors that's presented proposals can't get to it in time to get it in for this year for us to be able to utilize. It would be in, but it's going to be in probably by the time we need to be closing it, so all we're going to be doing is winterizing it and paying for that, and it won't be used till next year. So thought process is that we can add it into the grant because the LPRF grant is funding a whole lot more splash pads than there are anything else. So we thought if we hadn't done that, we'll know by August, September, whether we got the grant or not. And we'll know if the splash pad, if they'll move forward with it. So we're not losing any time because we can't use it this year anyway. And by doing that, as you can see on here, there's some things that we can do instead of the splash pad if it's funded by the grant. One of them is the new roof at the community center. I coach down there, Jacob's down there every day during basketball season. We had to cancel practices, we had games to be canceled, moved out there because the roof is leaking. You got a wood floor, parquet floor that water's pouring down on. That's one of the reasons that the floor's bad. So we can fix the roof, and I'm big on fix the things that's broke before you start building the new. So we've got some broke things we need to be fixing. So that would let us do the roof, it would let us do some paving on the walking trail, improve some drainage. Also look at adding new restrooms to the park down there. If you all have been in the park, at the Riverfront Park, grateful we have restrooms, but most people ain't gonna use them. And it's embarrassing when you go in our restrooms and then you go in our neighbor's bathroom and how much difference there is. So this would let us do some of these things now and put this into our grant. And we feel very good about getting it funded by the grant. So that's kind of where this is coming from, and take some of that splash pad off of us and put it there.
Is it, what option number is it?
Number one.
I move that we approve or authorize the submission of the grant.
Second. Motion by Councilman Wright to approve option one, second by Councilman Russell. Councilman Russell.
Yes, sir.
Floor is open for any further discussion.
I think that'll work out a lot better doing that. I wanted it this year, but, I mean, if it's gonna be that late, there wouldn't be any sense in trying to fund it ourselves. So this will probably work out a lot better and get some more stuff done with that money.
Should
So, uh,
the air conditioning, should that, I says 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth item, should that be HVAC? Add, it says add air conditioning, you talked about there's no heat in there either.
Yeah, we can do a combo.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's a lot cheaper to do it then than just load it. Okay.
And something else that we discussed to look at, not to change this, but the dock that we have at the riverfront, the ones that you all have been on, it is small. It's really not a fishing pier. It is for people to bring a boat up, tie a boat off, get off, come into the park. Me and Kevin talked today about looking at expanding it and turning it more into a fishing pier, where it's wider, more usable for what we want it used for at the park. And if you've been down there, it stays covered up with people wanting to fish, and it would be a good place for our young people to go fish. So,
I've had several people approach me asking me about that. I think that'd be a great idea.
any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Tim Johnson?
Yes.
Sam Russell?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, discuss and possibly approve golf course lease for driving range addition. Mr. Reynolds, you had looked into that with the city attorney and with the Jacob and the group that's doing that.
Yes, we met, city attorney, Dr. Curley, and the third party met to discuss the lease terms and updated those. I believe we've reflected all of the changes that we agreed upon within that meeting, that everyone was satisfied with, but see if the city attorney has some additional comments. She drafted the lease for us.
Yeah, just to point out to the council, we have a property description that was provided to me by Mr. Bennett for the area within the golf course that is specifically being leased. And we changed the term to 8 years as opposed to 15 or 20. And they're going to pay the rent in one payment annually as opposed to monthly. And I had since been informed the city doesn't pay taxes on the golf course being a public property. However, going forward, that if there are taxes as far as the driving range is concerned, that will be the responsibility of range partners. And let's see. I think that was generally the corrections we made. And then we've got signature lines for everybody to sign if it's approved by council.
Motion to approve. Motion. Motion by Councilman Russell, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Johnson. Councilman Russell.
No, sir.
Councilman Johnson.
I think it'll be a great addition to the golf course, I really do. That's all I've got.
Floor is open for further discussion.
Both parties are all in agreement, right?
Yep.
And I would just say, because there was some discussion as opposed to if the city thinks they're going to continue running the golf course long-term or not. We found the warranty deed, and it was kind of everyone's understanding the city could like sublease the golf course somewhere else, and we can protect this contract within any sublease that we do for the golf course as a whole to protect their interest at least through the 8 years. If we had to.
Thank you. Floor is still open for discussion. Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Tim Johnson?
Yes.
Sam Russell?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. That's all on the agenda. Need approval to waive the agenda rule for 2 items. The first would be the course appraise, letting them use the property down in front of the hospital. The other one is a property tax on the Kingston Medical property that we are still leasing to discuss it.
Motion.
Motion, Councilman Russell, second.
I'll second.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Russell.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Johnson.
No, sir.
All in favor, just aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? All right, the first item is the courts appraise. You heard the young lady come in and tell what she wanted to do with the property. She is gonna get with the codes enforcement, find out about the noise and stuff. What's the will of the council?
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilman Wright, second by Councilman Russell. Councilman Wright. Councilman Russell.
No, sir.
Floor is open for discussion. There being none, call the roll.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
I'll yield
Tim.
before
I just have a quick question. Will y'all be needing power for your amplifiers?
Yes.
So will you be needing power from the hospital, or will you have generators?
We have a generator, but if we could get it from the hospital,
I
that'd be
just
even
wanted
better.
to clarify, because I read it in, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have generators. That's what we were planning on doing.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Tim Johnson?
Yes.
Sam Russell?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item, property tax on the Kingston Medical property. We have discussed this last year and we had discussed it last year, I think, and we went and made a payment last year. Since then, the person that is renting the building has paid us back. I'm gonna let you discuss, tell more about this.
We, basically, the way the arrangement was worked out last time was the city made the payment for the taxes, and then the person who's leasing the facility paid us $2,000 a month, along with the lease until the amount that we had paid was satisfied. What we're proposing is to structure a similar agreement for taxes that are due at this time. And I think last time it was a little over $12,000. This time I think it's about 18,000, just under 18,000. So at 2,000 a month, it would take them roughly 9 months to reimburse the city for the taxes, which we're the first leaseholder of the property, which we have agreed to be responsible for. We did pass that responsibility on the sublease to the person who's operating out of the property at this time. But ultimately, it does fall to the city to satisfy that responsibility.
Kevin, are these property taxes only
Yes,
$18,000 for
that's
that building?
that's 2 years of county taxes and 1 year of city taxes.
Oh, okay, so. And just so council's aware, as we've discussed, we're gonna opt out of our lease when it comes up. And I'm almost sure before we're about to opt out of our lease, we're gonna have to pay these taxes anyway. So it's better to go ahead and hit it and move forward and go ahead and start having him pay us back.
And I would just say, the lease expires in May. I don't recall the particular day in May of this year, but we would be responsible for the prorated 2018 taxes as well up until the date of that expiration. But we still have the contract and the sublease, which we can enforce for the relevant time period against the subleasee to pay us back. But like the manager said, we're the first party. It's our responsibility if the sublease doesn't pay. So if we don't pay, then the landlord's going to come after us, and it just kind of goes down the line as far as priority for paying it. But otherwise, it was my understanding the city wanted to let that expire and not renew, and I can send notices just confirming we're not going to renew it, but we'll pay the taxes like we're obligated to. And we can pay this and still request the subleasee to pay it like he should. We just might be discussing this again next year too, for 2018.
Yeah, I was about to point out you're gonna have 2018 taxes before these are paid. The length of time of $2,000 a month, so probably in an area of negotiability that's not covered by any contract on 2018, right?
Well, the contract would expire as far as, our obligation going forward, but it's still enforceable through this year. So even next year, we're talking about, we had a contract where the city was obligated to pay through May of this year. And then the subleasee is also obligated to us this year. And I'm going to send a notice to the subleasee that we're not renewing, so anything he wants to do needs to be with the original landlord and not us, because we're not going to renew the sublease for sure.
Dr. Curley, do we not own the property, the land?
No, we do not.
It's owned by
It was a
trust.
deal made by the hospital before, several years ago. They basically leased the property and built the building.
I believe it was a 20-year lease, and so we're coming up on our 20 years.
That's right.
My biggest problem with this is we dealt with this last year. We had to pay it last year. The gentleman paid us back, which is great. It's frustrating to take $18,000 out of our general fund to pay somebody else's bill, and we don't charge any interest. We don't charge any penalties. We just give them $18,000 and say, pay us back with no interest or no penalties. That just is not right. We wouldn't do that to anybody else, and it's just aggravating that we have to do this. But the problem is, we signed the lease. We didn't, but the lease was signed, and it was accepted by this board years ago, so we are responsible. It's aggravating that we have to do that.
So when we give it up, we're getting rid of the building.
We're getting rid of the obligation for what we signed on for the last 20 years.
We're getting rid of the building.
Well, we never owned it. We were just leasing it with covenant or something, and we quit using it. So that's why we subleased it to someone else, so that ideally we wouldn't be paying for a building we're not using.
I thought it came to us though in the hospital.
We don't own it. We never
No, we
owned
don't.
it.
Well,
We were just using it.
my recollection is that the hospital authority built the building on leased property.
We don't.
But you can't pick it up and move it after
No,
the
but
lease.
I'm telling you, somebody's done.
Good observation.
Yeah. And that's some of the stuff we're dealing with the hospital. This is one of the last things that we have with them, is this right here, except for retirement, which we'll never be out of. But we don't have another option, do we? Can we not charge penalties or interest or anything when we do this?
I'd have to look at our sublease again, but if we have to take it to court to enforce the default and the repayment, we can at least recoup attorney's fees and costs. I'm not sure about interest. I'd have to look, but if we have to take it to court, we can make them pay for our filing fees, attorney's fees, that kind of thing.
Will this be written up in a signed agreement?
It can be. Last year, I just did it on letterhead and sent it to him and say, you know, this is what we're offering you without going to court. Agree or don't. So I was gonna try that first.
Well, it's better not to press for more and get nothing, as it is to have a stream of payments that they can afford to make. So
And we get tied up.
it's not a very palatable situation
In the
either.
legal system, we really short it.
Yeah.
Because we'll front that cost before we get reimbursed.
What's the will of the council? Motion to pay the 16 and 17 taxes. 16's total $7,658. 17's is $10,254. Motion to pay.
Motion to pay.
Motion by Councilman Holly, second.
Second, it, I don't like it, but it'd be better to go ahead and do it and get it over with.
Second, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Holly.
It looks like there's too many options, and the ones that are there are not good, none of them are, so.
Councilman Johnson.
I'd just rather go ahead and do it and just take the loss. I mean, like Alan has said, if we did try to go at it legally in the court, it just cost us more money than that much longer to recoup. So I'd just rather go ahead and pay it.
Floor is open for discussion.
If I read right, the city attorney, and city manager, and Dr. Curley feel that this is probably our best out.
Right, well, if the sublease fee doesn't pay it, then it's our responsibility, and if we don't pay it, then we'll be the ones being sued by the landlord for not paying it. So this is to save us being the defendant.
The best option, several unappealable options.
Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Buddy Holly?
Yes.
Tim Johnson?
Yes.
Sam Russell?
Yes.
Lonnie Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. Anything else need to come before this council? Motion to adjourn. Motion. Second.
Second.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed, like sign.